Hello, everybody. Here I am with Brent Darnell from the USA in Stony Brook at the moment. And how are you?
Hi, doing well. I just finished my session. It was so great because not that I was great, but it was an exploration and a lot of good input and feedback and a lot of really great practitioners that added a lot to it and asked a lot of good questions, and we learned from each other. It was really good.
Good. So your session was about converging left and right.
Yes, we want the political left and right to come together, and how do we do that? And we used a couple of methods, but we started with play, because according to Kathy Salet, you don't just start in with the hard stuff, you start playing and creating things together. That's the first step, and it makes people connect with each other and be comfortable with each other and trusting each other. And then we started talking a little bit about the brain physiology behind biases and how we perceive the world through our emotional states and how that affects everything. Mm-hmm. So then we got into the exercises. Like, what are the exercises to overcome these various worldviews?
Yes. Are you filming
values
from your hand because you're moving a lot, or maybe you can put it down somewhere, or I don't know if that's easier.
All right.
I get a bit nervous from moving
maybe I
and
can
shaking.
put it down.
No problem. Let's move to the right or the left, whatever. Oh, yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No, so much more calm. Okay. So
do you want me to do that all again?
No, just continue.
All right. So so we start with the biases and worldviews and how we perceive the world, which is affected by emotional states. It's affected by past experience and all kinds of different things. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about how do we reconcile those differences? And we use three things that we focused on. I'm sure there's more, but we talked about emotional intelligence and emotional management, because when you're angry, your brain just looks for things to be angry about. Yeah. And when you're loving and compassionate, you look for things to be loving and compassionate about. So it's about managing those emotional states, number one. And then we talked about the idea of play and co-creation, creating stuff together, which brings people together. Mm-hmm. And then we also talked about just the ability to just connect as human beings, love, compassion, empathy, and those kinds of skills.
Yes.
And then we went over some really good improv exercises and talked about how they relate to creating this connection with each other. Mm-hmm. An example of one, we got paired off, and you told each other a difficulty you overcame in your childhood, something challenging that you overcame, right? And then you get in groups of 4, and you become that other person and tell it in first person what their difficulty was and how they overcame it. Mm-hmm. This is a really cool exercise because it's a great empathy exercise. It's a great trust exercise. People become vulnerable because they talk about a challenge that they've had. Mm-hmm. And it gets people to really listen because they have to they have to become the other person to tell them what that difficulty was.
Yes, but what the question I have, because of course you are in Stony Brook with Applied Improvisers, who are of course also a certain brand of people, and they love to listen and they love to get into experiential learning, and they're open-minded of changing their perspectives on things. So you have an easy group in that sense. If you talk about bridging a gap or a divide in, well, I would not say rather left and right, because I'm from Europe. So our left and right is maybe a bit more blurred, and there's in-betweens as well. But more so about really collaborating or understanding each other, even though it's fine to have a different opinion or a different stance on something, but at least to be able to understand someone else's.
Right.
So how do we get there?
Well, I think we talked about this. I told him, you guys are all experienced facilitators. It's about creating that safe space in the beginning and start slowly, because these things are pretty challenging. So we talked about that as well. But I told him these are the meat exercises. We have to start slowly and build to these. But these are the ones where you get the transformation and the connection.
And it may be a very stupid question, but why are you so passionate about like bridging the gap, even trying it?
That's what I started with. I told him I don't have any answers. I'm just a goofy guy who's really heartbroken about the division we have, and I want to try to do something about it. And I think this is a way to address it, or at least start a discussion about it. And I called it an exploration. So it's about exploring ways that we can, as individuals and as practitioners, start to address these kinds of issues and connect with people that we don't agree with at all.
Yeah, and that goes way beyond just left and right, but in any team or organization are people that are just on such a different wavelength in their thinking. So,
So we did a bunch of exercises. One of the other ones we did, it's Ubuntu from South Africa, the philosophy that we're all connected, and if I harm you, I harm myself. So we just did a slow walking, make eye contact, and you say, I see you, and the response is, I am here. That was a really nice exercise. That was one we closed with. But also I told a story for the final closing, and it's about my dog. It was about Gypsy, my dog, who hates cats. And she lunges at cats and growls at cats and wants to kill cats until she met this little cat named Boris. And Boris is a giant ball of love and compassion and play. And he just came, and no fear at all, no fear, came trotting right up to Gypsy. Gypsy was like ready to growl and ready to respond. And then Boris kind of patted her on the face and rolled on his back. And then she got into the dog play mode and started playing with Boris. And they started playing together. So I said, what a great lesson. Let's all be like Boris and come at this through love and through compassion and through play and no fear, and connect with those people that we are right now afraid of. We're afraid of the alt-right, and we're afraid of these people who don't have our same beliefs. Don't be afraid, be curious.
Yes.
And go find some common ground with them.
I think that's it. What you say, in some way we are connected because we are human. And humans play. I like that you say so, because earlier on, I think I taught something in Oxford about the universal language of play that connects us, and we all speak it, So.
Oh, and by the way, we started with a game. We started with and they said, like, what does this have to do with left and right? But we just started with a game. I didn't have any other than my introduction of I don't know what I'm doing. I've already labeled people. I've already labeled left and right. Right? I've already failed. So let's start over. So we just did everybody get into groups of 5 to 7 and plan your family vacation. You can define the family however you want. 2 moms, 3 dads, doesn't matter. 5 kids, no kids. Decide who you are. Plan your family vacation. No limits, no boundaries, no budget concerns. And we created that as a group together. And that's how we started. And I told them when we got to the part about how to overcome this, about play and creation, co-creation, I said, you notice we didn't start with, let's discuss our biases. Let's start digging into the hard stuff right away, because Kathy Salett says that always fails. It's always a problem. And so you have to start with play and co-creation and get people to connect with each other first.
Yes. Actually, I like the notion of these biases because we know they are there, and yet sometimes we don't see them ourselves.
Yes.
Any suggestions on that? How to get people to become more aware? The exercise we did was I put up 12 different headshots, right, of people, and there were really varying people, dark-skinned, light-skinned, having hijabs on,
white guys. I mean, it was a really diverse group. And the exercise is, these people are behind you at an ATM money machine, and it's late at night. Which one do you feel comfortable with and safe with, and which one would you feel a little scared of? And and then they have that discussion, and people choose different people, right? Like, oh, you find them scary? I don't find them scary at all. And then they said nobody chose the scary. None of the scaries were women; they were all men, which I found interesting. And then we do another exercise, which we didn't do, but I have those same headshots, and I have a list of like occupations or designations, like janitor, neurosurgeon, PhD physicist, convicted felon, whatever. And you have to match up the headshot with the list, right? And then we see if you're right or not, because all these people are real people. In fact, some of them are friends of mine. And so then we see, did you get it right? And I went against stereotype orders because that makes it interesting. Yes. So the big rough guy that looks like a biker with sunglasses and goatee and big guy tattoos, he was a nurse. And
I think the point you make is very clear, that we all do have biases and we all have judgments just based on appearance or past experiences or whatever.
Right.
But I love your notion of become Boris, the furry cat.
Yeah.
So how can we become Boris and become this, I don't know, non-judgmental, playful, loving type?
It's probably a goal we can never attain, but at least we have to start the dialogue with ourselves, and we have to say, I do have biases, and I'm going to do my best to recognize those. I may fail a lot, but I'm going to do my best and see where that takes me, and see if I can create a different world for myself.
Yes, I love that.
And it's just to try. Yeah. It's just to try and fail a lot, I think, because we do have those biases, and we just need to know that we do. I was raised in a very segregated Jim Crow laws South when I was small. I remember going into a doctor's waiting room as a child, and there was a colored waiting room area. And around the back, they were around the back. We went in the wrong door, and it was the colored waiting room.
Yeah, and that's not that long ago. Yeah. I'm sorry, Brent. I have to cut you short because we're running out of time already. Are you now talking without sound? I think you're talking without sound. Something happened. But I like you without sound as well. Let's give each other a furry hug and say goodbye. And let's all become Boris, okay? Ciao.